Welcome boys and girls, Costin here with Tzarina Katarin in Total War Warhammer 3 Immortal Empires. And what I'm going to do in this video is showcase how to win her campaign without resorting to the usual bag of tricks that a lot of people do when playing this one. Because you can certainly dominate in this campaign. Katarin, however, is not really a great legendary lord in a lot of ways, but she is one a lot of people, infuriatingly so, do play. So it is kind of important to get this one right. So, you fight your initial 2 battles and then you recruit some regular consorts. Then you go to Kislev City and you also start getting a Frost Maiden hero. If you don't want to use the load save character system, but let's just say you don't want to. Then you will want to get a Boyar or a Tzarina. There is a limit I'm going to draw on this. I am going to assume people watching this video have Shadows of Change. If you don't have Shadows of Change, that's your business. So in this case, I'm going to get a Tzarina. The reason I'm going to get a Tzarina as opposed to a Boyar is because the range capability might be more useful. However, there is of course a benefit with regards to getting a Boyar, though it depends on what you are getting right here, really. So, for instance, in this case, I think I'm going to get the Vanguard Boyar just because it gives me that support of orthodoxy. And we're also going to increase local recruitment capacity in that particular province. Katarin starts with no hero, has no easy way to gain one, and also has a battle over there at Fort Chikova. We'll also get the Tzarina right here in order to attack Fort Chikova right there. We will want to attack, we will want to take Igorov, we will want to deal with these factions as quickly as we possibly can. We will have a rebellion, and we want to deal with that rebellion as quickly and efficiently as it can be done. Now the reason I'm recruiting so many Kossars is we're going to have a siege battle. And we want to deal with that siege battle as quickly and effectively as possible. There's also an ogre camp right here. Do not underestimate the capability that those ogres can provide you in the battle that is going to happen right here. And this is really the only battle worth anything in a lot of different ways in Katarin's campaign, because it is the one that matters. Now, there are ways of kind of getting the AI to march forth, so to speak. Though, yeah, this one, you are going to have to fight. But you have a lot of Kossars in this situation, and someone apparently recruited the Ogre Bulls with dual weapons. But let me go over the battle tactics right here very quick. Okay, so now with this kind of battle, it is always going to be a tricky affair and a tricky position on how to handle it. There are several ways to approach it, but this particular battlefield makes different choices more limited than they should be. You could always just wait, I suppose, and, you know, deal with things as they come, but what we're going to do here, we can see that the Marauder Hunters have range right there. That is their max range. We do not want to get in that, because they're javelins. They will do more damage than we can take. So we just want to start bombarding them. Even though that tower is going to do some damage to us, we do want to bombard the heck out of them, use up our ammunition, because that way we can drive them off the walls and deal with them one at a time. That's kind of the key. You just do this over and over again and just keep moving forward when you've got an army like this. Okay, that it's sorted, and now we start laying the groundwork for our trap, because we've dealt with some of the range units. Now we need to clear out some other things right here. Like, for instance, dealing with those marauders. And moving our archers in a way that they can target units behind the walls right there. Because as things currently stand, we've tackled some of the units, but not all of them. We need to deal with those Marauder Berserkers. They're actually the only units that are dangerous in this situation. And so we use spells, we use combination of ranged. We do have enough capability right here to do a ton of damage while taking very little in return. And once that damage has been dealt with, we can just consume all our winds of magic. It is not the most fun and engaging way. This is why I will always say that sieges are not worth a damn. Like, if the idea of sieges is to put a stopgap to the player, they fail in that. If the idea of sieges is to have good gameplay, they also fail in that. If the idea of sieges is to create a good defensive situation for either the player or the AI, they also fail in that. Every singular thing that sieges can do, they actually do fail at. And that's not even by a small margin either, it's like by quite a bit. Alright, so these two, we're going to go send them. And yep. Okay, so on turn 3, after taking this settlement and taking, well, rather horrific casualties in the process, we're ready to move forward. Yes, I did lose some of the winged lancers. No, I am not particularly interested about that because they don't really matter as much as one might think. We can get more Ice Court supporters right there, and we will need more troops. And an economy to boot as well. We are going to get a rebellion, but that's pretty much part of the plan, so to speak. Just more troops, more things to sort out, or we could just not recruit more troops and instead use the supply lines. We also have the ability of declaring war on Malachi's initial foe, and the Rock Skulls as well. Because some of the things to be said here, as Katarin, you do have vision with various factions. So not using that is just being, well, silly. Some people don't like doing this. They don't like using these kind of mechanics. From my view, it's pretty simple. You either use these mechanics or you will fall behind compared to everything else. Frost Maiden wise, you want to go with Tempest Magic, it's always better, and then you want to go with Glacial Blaster. The reason you want to go for Glacial Blaster is it reduces enemy spell resistance, gives you magical attacks, wins a magic spell cost, so go with Storm, with Glacial Blaster right there. It's generally speaking the far better choice. And Kislev warriors are a very good, cheap, low-level frontline that will be rather relevant for the things ahead that you will use. So you take Igorov, you deal with the rebellion. Next up, we'll have to deal with Fraud, one way or another. Or we can wait for Fraud to declare war on Prague, because he has a tendency of doing precisely that. And that is what we're actually counting on right there. Usually speaking, you do have Protector, Economist, Architect. I would generally say that from the perspective of what is really useful here, reducing construction costs by 5% with Architect is generally speaking the best choice. Protector and Court Agent, not really so much. The reason Court Agent is not so useful is because you will usually have so many Patriarchs once you get them that you won't care too much about them. So either way, here's the battle. We deal with our initial enemy faction right here, and then we will loot and occupy it to trigger that particular rebellion over there. Now on turn 5, you will have this specific choice of either going for the Ice Court or Orthodoxy or the middle ground. I always go for the Orthodoxy, partly because, well, as Katarin especially, it's harder to get Orthodoxy support, and also because the Orthodoxy does confer bigger and more important benefits. So getting to Orthodoxy boons is not something to sneeze at. It's not something to laugh at. And what do you want to get with those Orthodoxy boons? Well, there's all kinds of benefits that we could acquire right here, like Endless March, Duty Forward, Replenishing Campaign Movement Range, Dominion, for instance. Usually, however, one of the things that I do almost always want to go for is land provides with Spiritual Conquest. Because Spiritual Conquest, while it won't provide the benefit immediately, it will certainly give a benefit, and a fairly tangible one at that, eventually in the campaign. So as we start progressing right here, we start getting tier 2 capitals, and we also pay attention. So what do we want? We got the Logisticon. The reason we want Logisticon is Kislev does not have a campaign movement range hero, so having the ability of getting one is one of those important things during the course of a campaign. And yeah, declare war on Nordland, because they're gonna be definitely wiped out. And also you can get a non-aggression pack with Ostermark, buy yourself some time, all that kind of stuff. And also dismiss this lord to improve our supply lines right here. They had their value, undeniably so. But we're looking for a rebellion right here so we can get to move on. And if it ends up being a Norscan rebellion, then that's even better for our sakes, because that would mean we get to fight against chaos. Now, what is vital when you're playing as Katarin is you want to end up helping Kostalpin. I know, trust me, I know. It's as fun as one might imagine, but is part of the process. So we can summon her right there. And next turn we will finally have our rebellion. We do pay attention to what's going on right here. We gotta be careful of the kind of situation that is unfolding. Pay attention. Now, this is, by the way, one of the principal reasons why when I'm playing this particular campaign, I tend to use a lot of the bag of tricks in Katarin's campaign in order to get confederations going faster. This is the reason I use load save character system. Oh, that's chaos, so that's nice. This is the reason why I tend to use the ability of, you know, using a low save character system for Ice Witch Lords, for Frost Maidens, because everything I've done so far I could have done much, much faster and much easier if I was using that. And this is why this campaign is such a pile of rubbish, because everything that you can do, there's no real challenge this campaign offers. It's more like, here's a level of frustration that you shouldn't have to deal with, but you get to deal with because the developers did not necessarily think things through on how these things would unfold. And that's the real tragedy, if you will, in Katarin's campaign. It's not that she's got a bad campaign. It's not that she's necessarily so terrible, though she certainly has her issues. It's like the combination of events all put together. We want to get cold storage right there. But the combination of events all thrown into the same blender, if you will, has created an unappealing dynamic in said campaign. We have enough forces, by the way, to deal with the Skaven. Hopefully, should be enough forces. But the combination of like, oh, you don't get Ice Court supporters, you don't start with a hero. Say what you will about Costin's situation, he at least starts with a Patriarch. He's got a really good situation for dealing with Azazel. He can deal with Fraud pretty quickly. He's not marching in the wrong direction. Now, one can argue, when looking at all of this, that you should just deal with Azak. But again, you're Kislev, and ignoring Fraud is a really, really bad idea. Now he's at war with. With respect to. With respect to the Skaven, we're gonna get another economic building right over yonder. So that army right there that you're seeing is going to end up being wiped out fairly shortly. Or if it's not going to end up being wiped out, it soon is going to have some problems, if you will. So we just move right here. And now we get to deal with our lovely, friendly Skaven neighbors. If we take this element and we end up in a strong enough position right here, we can sort everything out. And look, even if we lose Katarin's army, surprisingly, that is a possibility right there, because Skaven be Skaven. But yeah, that is definitely a lot of Skaven. That is definitely going to be 2 menaces from below. That is definitely going to require a lot of the ammunition we have, and we don't have necessarily... But we do have the troops. And maybe we don't win this battle. But once you get to this stage, once you are at this particular position, there's very, very little that can actually defeat you, really. Because, like, it's just clan rats and Skaven slaves. So, even though Fraud himself will be a nuisance, you can always just, okay, let's do this. Here's what we're going to do. We auto-resolve this. We sack. We get the hell out of here. We dismiss this army because it served its purpose. We fall the fuck back. Or we just dismiss Katarin completely. And just rebuild our armies from scratch. Just rebuild from scratch. Do it all over again. It might seem extreme, but bear in mind, there are ways of handling it. And Fraud is at war with Prague, so we can definitely deal with that. Or I'm just not interested anymore in dealing with another siege after dealing with a pretty miserable one. Like, that's why I hold against this campaign. It's your choice whether or not you want to play it, but the idea of like, oh, I'll fight the siege and I'm just gonna sit with my units and shoot everything in sight and try and take minimal casualties while shooting everything in sight, or suffer extreme casualties dealing with the siege. And then we get to deal with free Skaven armies as Skaven slaves at the same time. Or we abuse the Skaven slaves. Like, the alternative, just by the way, for people to understand what the alternative is in this situation. The alternative over here is we do nothing for a long while. We wait for our guys to be recruited. We wait for the economy to be sorted out. We wait for everything to be put in order. Or we attack Prague directly under the core assumption that maybe if we attack Prague directly, things will be better. Always hard to say, but we just move slowly, ever so slowly. There we go. You know, if you reload the save, there's sometimes that happens. We get Fraught Unclean to show up. We can declare war on him. We get the Proggers. Yes, I'm using a Kingdom Come Deliverance to reference right there. And we just blow him up. And that eliminates his most dangerous army in this situation. Though, of course, Skaven do not provide Skaven do not provide the same kind of benefits. As some other people do. But yeah, combination of things, and now Prague is in a much better position to deal with that nuisance. Like, that's an alternative. Waiting for them to exhaust themselves, waiting for him to even take Prague in the first place. You can always wait for Fraught. Fraught and the way Skaven operate is predicated on the idea that they tend to go hard, fast, with lots of clan rats and Skaven slaves. But once they exhaust themselves, initial exhaustion, like once they've built these 3-4 armies, they don't have, usually speaking, the staying power to remain relevant in a longer campaign. And that is the main benefit that you have over here in this kind of situation. Apologies for that sigh, just a lot of things. So we merge everything together. And then, well, we withdraw. It always feels like a bit of ping pong. Or you can just decide, okay, we could try and get the Confederation going. There's tactics, there's strategies, there's ways around this that work better than the nonsense that I've done so far. Because this is nonsense. This is like the most suboptimal path, built around the idea that, oh, I don't want to use region trading. Oh, I don't want to use load save character system. Oh, I don't want to use half the systems in the game. And as a result of that, I end up in a situation that I shouldn't end up in. Because this is the reason you do so. Like, what can you do, you might ask? What is the path of victory, you might inquire? Let me show you the simplest path to victory. It's really damn easy when you get into the weeds of it. So when dealing with Katarin's campaign, the simplest path to victory is really the most obvious one that should be clear, cut, and easy to understand. On turn 1, plus path for victory in Katarin's campaign, now that we've established what you shouldn't do. Well, you do go on turn 1, you do build the growth buildings, you do all that with the lords. You use the load save character system to actually get something, a hero or lord, worth acquiring. You use load save character system to get yourself 2 Tempest Ice Mages. Oh, but that requires me to use the New Game Plus mechanic. Yeah, tough shit. Welcome to the video game that exists. Not the fantasy version that people want in their damned heads on this subject. So you get these 2. You then sell Zavastra to the Tzarina Enclave. You get everything right here, including all their money. It is that simple. You recruit tons of units right here. Load save character system, another ice switch. You're looking to get them to come out and play right here. So in this case, I do have Vanguard. And we also want, well, a bit of a trick right here, by the way. We want to try and lure these guys out. So that's turn 1. You also build a barracks in Vitevo. Why in Vitevo? Well, you'll find out very soon. End the turn. Frat is almost always going to take out one settlement of the Tzarina Enclave. It doesn't matter which one he does. Ideally, he doesn't take down the capital. Ideally, he goes for the obvious settlement, but he could take the capital. There is a chance of that, dependent on difficulty setting. Obviously, I'm talking legendary very hard here. Things are subject to change dependent on faction randomization, potential, etc. Okay, so now with them sorted out, we trade back and forth these specific settlements. We sell Zavastra, we get that military alliance, we get a confederation. Done. You get the tier 2 settlement, you avoid all that bullshit, you avoid all that nonsense that you had to deal with in the past. And here's the best part in all of this, as I mentioned doing all of this stuff. You even have an easier time with the siege, because you're not so focused on getting there before Front deals with Prague, because you've managed, in doing all of this, you've managed to actually hurt Front's potential by quite a bit. You don't need to attack right here as quickly as you did before. And even further than that, yes, even further than that, you also have the ability, you can actually just be like, okay, I got 3 heroes, I got Zavastra and all that, and Fortostrak. Who can I get on my side right here that would be really nice and beneficial to actually do? Oh, right. The actual guys right here that would be incredibly beneficial to get control over Prague. But this is abusing region trading. You don't need to go this far if you don't want to. But that's the simpler path. So the choice is, gentlemen, you can either go for the actual path of winning the campaign, or you can screw around and waste time just because you don't like using mechanics of the game. That's your decision. But I've explained the 2 paths that really Katarin has. Either one works, one of them is infuriating, the other one actually gets results. That's up to you.